Hi, I'm Maya Van Rossum, the Delaware Riverkeeper. The Delaware Riverkeeper Network is conducting a series of interviews to take a critical look at the shale gas industry and its impacts on our environment, on our communities, and on our future. In this segment, I'm going to be joined by Leslie Sauer, who's a pioneer in the field of restoring and managing native landscapes. We're going to be talking about the effects of shale gas pipeline construction on forests, on wetlands, on our communities, as well as alternatives to the destructive construction techniques that are now used by pipeline companies.
I want to address the issue of management and surveillance. Particularly since 9/11, the issue of surveillance has escalated dramatically in terms of a topic for discussion. Many of the transmission line sites in New Jersey that used to support really exceptional young successional landscapes have now been reduced to kind of lunar landscapes that are amenable to almost no life. It's really affecting the viability of one species in particular in New Jersey. And I think we do have to address the fact that if we are going to have all of these pipelines, that the management of the rights-of-way has to improve. And by combining management, surveillance, and monitoring, I think we can bring the economic factors together to do this in a way that increases the level of surveillance, but that also allows us to restore and manage these sites more appropriately. We should be looking at closed canopy management. It is not necessarily going to be an option everywhere, but if we are going to make up for some of the fragmentation concerns in these forested sites, this should definitely be examined, particularly in areas where we are going through new forest and it is only a single pipeline wide. It is very doable to bring it back to a closed canopy management, which would reduce the ongoing impacts of fragmentation significantly. If we are going to maintain such consistent access to these pipelines, then we should possibly even look at the opportunities for combining it with recreational access. This was done with a pipeline in Morris County, where they were able to purchase some additional pieces of private land that allowed for some continuity along a walking trail. And we can really see ways in which we can turn these pipelines and the continuity of a pipeline into something that is actually useful for the general public, and that it makes all this taxpayer contribution to this process worthwhile. And we have to look at having a compensation for the use of natural areas that doesn't mean the taxpayer is effectively subsidizing the use of these natural areas, and that we are able to address replanting and long-term management, and hopefully at the same time increase the viability and effectiveness of surveillance.
When you talked, you mentioned some specific strategies for avoiding land disturbance, and use some specific terminology, horizontal directional drilling to go under the ground. You talked about stove piping to do the welding in the
They can also have a large work area adjacent to a sensitive site, where they can actually put the pipe together and then drag it through a sensitive area. These are the decisions that the contractor is going to be best able to make, but they really have made significant progress, in part because pipelines are going into more and more difficult areas. You're crossing the Delaware River, you're crossing all kinds of situations. But we also noticed a lot of it when we were asking about how do we make a pipeline narrower, and they said, well, you can't make it narrower than 100 feet. So we just started following them around. Well, you watch them cross a busy road site. There's nothing like a 100-foot construction site there. Watch them go through areas where there are cultural resources that people are actually battling for, and all of a sudden you see narrower rights-of-way. And when we started discussing it, it really opened up a whole window of opportunity. Again, it's because natural areas are treated as a kind of cowboy, free-for-all, just blast it through. Big equipment, quick and dirty, cut all the trees down before they've even done the baseline vegetation studies.